Just learn some Spanish.
Learn a little Spanish.
No comprendo.
So it's funny because I think a lot of people have said, well, my house is an asset. I need to buy a house. I need to buy a house. I need to buy a house. And I'm like, why the fuck are you buying a house? You can't afford a car payment. Why do you want to buy a house? Go live in an apartment, the cheapest fucking apartment you can find. Stack your cash every month.
Yes.
20 years from now, buy your fucking house.
The biggest mistake I made was buying things I didn't even like to impress people that I don't even like.
Absolutely.
I'm buying things. I was buying stuff to impress people I don't even like your neighbors, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, why do I got all this nice stuff? See, when I was making $1 million a year and my overhead was 20,000, it was like, oh, the bank's like, you're only 20% debt to income. Then when that went away and I got $20,000 in overhead a month, I'm like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I figured it out. Yeah. But it was like I sold off everything I had.
It's so odd that most people don't know what their monthly spend is.
I mean, I'm sitting there literally. Here's how bad it was. I never looked at my bank account.
Yeah.
I never looked. I literally, I had invoices coming in 30, 40, 50K. It's like, okay, great. Boom, put in a business account. And I pay myself 130,000, but my business paid for everything.
Right.
The other thing I didn't know, when you buy a house, I didn't know I have an S corp, and I didn't own a house for years. Right, I was on this whole, Grant Cardone thing or this, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki. Why are you don't buy a house? Right? They're like, don't buy a house, buy an investment property, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't buy anything, and so I finally go buy this brand new build in Vegas, and I get the house and I go to qualify, and they're like, oh, I'm looking at houses in, Summerlin, Seven Hills, all these McDonald Ranch. And they're like, well, you don't qualify. So what do you mean? I make $1 million a year. No, company does. You only pay yourself $124,000 a year. I said, yeah, but see, I didn't know this. And so then I'm like, fuck, what do I qualify for? Well, luckily I bought the house at the right time. In October 2020, I put the earnest money down and the houses were still relatively cheap in Vegas. But it was like, what? I only qualified for 505? Now here, 505, you did get a lot of house for your money. Right. Seattle, $1 million, you get a dog house.
Yeah.
You don't even get an outhouse for $1 million in Seattle, right? And then you live next to neighbors you really can't stand. Right. So I'm like, wow. So then the next tax came because it's going to tax season. He goes, you need to show that you made 134. Call my accountant. Can you put some W-2s together to show I made 134K? So I qualify. So I get in the house is $489.90 or something like that with tax, $498.990. He's like, you can't do any upgrades. So I built the house the way it was. But the point was I learned a valuable lesson. And then I get the house, I got a business loan, I got I got cars that are 100K or more, I got all this stuff, and I'm going out, dropping $1,000 on dinners with people, going to the gentleman's club, throwing money, girlfriend's throwing money. We're traveling, doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And I'm like, let me see how much my overhead is. Thinking it was 15, it was 20. And then you see all these little charges on your account, like Google charges. And I'm sure you've all done this. I'm going to look at the engineer. You ever go into your bank account and you look at all these Google charges like 20, 10, 15, 30. You're like, what are all these little app charges you forget? Yeah, 3 gym memberships. I'm like, what am I? And I cut back like $700. Yeah. And then I'm like, where can I? So my Bitcoin before it was at 60. Got rid of all Ethereum, got rid of, retirement, 401k. I'm trying to just pay bills every month.
Right.
And now I'm going, what the frick was I thinking? But now I'm back and I'm ahead. But now I'm like, do I really need, I literally have 21, hold on. I have $3,500 in car payments, not including insurance. Right. But back then it was no big deal.
Right. So I went the other way. So I lived like a poor person my whole life. Like if you met me like in 2005, you met me in 2005 when I got married, you thought I had no money at all. And I kind of didn't, but I had enough to get by on. Got married in 2005. My wife and I built some stuff up. I retired in 2016 at 45. And I haven't done anything since. I still make money because I just can't stop making money. But I live in a $400,000 house in Tennessee which is all my neighbors. It was it's worth 600 now, but all my neighbors live in the same kind of house. You wouldn't think anything about it. Every vehicle I have is paid for. I have a 5-year rule. I don't buy anything newer than 5 years. If it's newer than 5 years old, I want it. I don't want to talk about it. I want to look at it.
So you're basically saying the car would have to be a 2019.
Yeah.
Or older.
I'd have to buy a 2019 or older, and I'd have to pay cash money for it. It's just the way I roll. So I had done that for so long. I actually had done that for so long that one day I wanted to go buy something. I forget what it was. And I'm like, my wife's like, hey, we need to buy a car on credit. We're gonna buy another house. And she's like, your credit score sucks. I'm like, how does my credit score?
Because you don't have any credit.
Because I never use it.
That's some bullshit. That's the worst. That is the worst thing about our system. When you're younger, you can't get credit because you don't have any. And then you don't have any credit, so you can't apply for a house.
Yeah.
It's like, what the? And then here I got all this stuff. I got so much stuff, right?
Right.
Everything's paid on time, all this stuff. I still can't get above 700.
Right.
I pay shit off. I paid off 15
And there are
cars.
guys out there that make minimum fucking wage with 800 credit scores.
How the fuck? I've got 18 cars paid off.
Right.
18. I went in there. They're like, I have this issue where I have to buy, like, I'm a car guy. So I have 18 car loans paid off.
Yeah.
I was paying my credit card every month. It's not paid off every month now, but now it is. It's paying off every month.
Right. So
I got a house. I got no late pays. Everything's perfect. And I'm like, 640. What? How?
Right.
674?
No,
How the hell is it? And then my ex-wife, when I was married, right? She has nothing. Her credit score is like 780. I'm like, what the? How is that?
Dude,
how is that possible?
It's very strange because, and like all last year, I tracked all my credit card and I pay my credit card off every month. My average spend a month on my credit card. Now I'm not talking about my wife's credit card
because that's the expensive one.
Yeah, just mine. It was like $10,000, $12,000 a month, paid off every month. Sometimes if it got up to $10,000, I paid off in the middle of the month.
All right.
I never hit 700, bro.
Never.
I'm like,
it's a scam. And you know what they do in Europe? You know how you buy a house in Europe? You know how you buy a house I'm looking at the engineers like, don't talk to me. You know how you buy a house in Europe? You have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. Like some of the systems, they don't have a credit system. Like certain countries, it's like, oh, you have 20,000 in the bank. Okay, we'll loan you a house. They actually do it the right way.
Right.
Here, how do you? You don't even have a job.
Yeah.
How do you have $800? You know, I don't get it.
Funny you say that because we were. So I had an opportunity to buy a property at auction. I went to the bank. I said, okay, I want to buy this house. I come back, and this was like we bought the house I live in. We're like 2.75%. So I was expecting to get about the same on this second property. They shoot me back like 4.5. I'm like, are you fucking insane? So we pay cash for it. $280,000, just pay cash for it.
Yeah.
And then,
well, as investment property, you're
so
you're supposed to do 20%.
So they would have, but again,
you need 20% down on investment property.
Yeah. We were going to put we would have put whatever down. It didn't matter. But they wouldn't. But it was going to be like some ridiculous interest rate. And I'm like, I have a problem paying too much interest. So then we had a second property, and I'm really good friends with the loan officer at my bank. And she does all she can for me. And I went to her again. I said, hey, I'm going to buy this property. They need 221 out of it. It's 20 acres. It's valued at $350 right now, but it hasn't been updated in a long time, and I think it's going to appraise for like $700. But I can get it for $221 today. And she's like, you know, I can give you 5%. I'm like, I'll just pay cash. So it was easier and cheaper to pay cash than it was to get a loan.